If you have an air fryer but hardly use it, or if you've been on the fence about whether or not to get an air fryer, hopefully this video today will help you either use your air fryer more often or decide that this is what you're going to put on your Christmas list this year.
I have an air fryer behind us. I don't use it 5 days a week. I do use it probably every couple of weeks because I'm still a bit of an old-fashioned cook. I really like my stovetop. I like my oven. I have a convection oven. It's a giant air fryer, right? There are some recipes that you know are just built for the air fryer.
I don't have an air fryer yet, but after something that happened this past weekend, I am leaning strongly towards becoming an air fryer person.
What happened?
Well, we'll get to that.
You're not a whim person. You are a very methodical person.
And I've been thinking about an air fryer for a while.
We've talked about it, yeah.
And one of the things that prior to this past weekend had me leaning in that direction anyway is that a lot of our freezer meal recipes, I'll try cooking it at home, Christy will try it at her house, and she'll be like, oh my goodness, those breakfast burritos were such a hit. And I'm like, you know, we found that even if you wrap them in the paper towel, they were a little soggy in the microwave. And she's like, oh, I just threw mine in the air fryer and they were perfect.
Right.
So that already had me leaning in that direction, but we'll get to the story in a bit. First, let's get to our very first meal prep air fryer recipe of the day.
The Cajun sausage sheet pan dinner is one of our all-time favorite recipes. We make it all the time, like all the time.
All the time.
And we even make it outside of our regular rotation. We still will put it together so that we have one in our freezer at all times because it is that good. But it is one of those that would translate very nicely to the air fryer. So into our bag, we are going to put a smoked garlic sausage ring sliced into rounds. Ukrainian sausage is fine. Kielbasa sausage is fine. We call it kubasa here in Canada, in Alberta. We're going to add in half a sweet potato that has been peeled and coarsely cubed, butternut squash, some zucchini, and then we're going to toss it with the olive oil, a heck of a lot of Cajun seasoning, and some salt. We're going to seal that bag up really nice and tight with as little air as possible because when it comes to freezer meals, air is the enemy. Air is what's going to cause your frost, your freezer burn, so you want to get as much out of there as you can. We're going to freeze it, and then on the day of cooking, cook it from thawed. We're going to put it in our air fryer at 400 for 10 to 12 minutes, and you're going to shake it. Give it a good shake about halfway. You want to make sure it's in a single layer, so if you might have to do this in stages depending on how big your air fryer is. And you kind of want to watch your sausage because it will really crisp up, which is fine. We just don't want it to really dry out. Once your sweet potato is tender with a fork, you know that this recipe is done and things will be crispy and wonderful.
It is such a good one. And imagine being able to have your dinner on the table completely done in 10 to 12 minutes. Kind of amazing.
Now this is a full meal, right? Because it's got the vegetables, it's got your protein, it has the carb in it. It is a full meal. And flavor, like I said, you definitely want to try this one if you haven't before. Link is in description below. There are important things that you should consider when using your air fryer. You want to make sure that you get familiar with your air fryer. Your first couple of meals in it are not going to be perfect. You might need a little more time. You might find that you've overcooked something. And what it says in your book, okay, some people toss their book when they get it or they put it away and they never look at it again. I religiously look at my book. I make sure that if it says this many minutes for broccoli or whatever, I make sure that I do it. But I find that my air fryer crisps it up too much and then it gets a little charred and it's a little too much, so I back it off or you lower the temperature. So these are guidelines. You know your air fryer best. The other thing is, don't crowd your air fryer. If you are making burritos, which we're gonna get to in a minute, 1 or 2 in there, depending on how big. Mine's a double air fryer. I could probably put 2 on each side and that would be more than enough. Maybe I could fit 3 or 4 in there, but you don't want to. That is something to consider. So yes, you're gonna have your Cajun sheet pan dinner ready to go in 10 to 12 minutes, But if you don't have a very big air fryer, you might need to do it in a couple of batches.
And that's been one of the hesitations for me. We have a large family, and I know that air fryers don't hold as much as an oven would. Some of our kids are getting older now. Sometimes there's only 3 or 4 of us eating at a time, and then it would work for us, or for appetizers, which I love.
Even for lunches, am I gonna really heat up this whole entire oven to make a little size of the corn and black bean enchiladas? I had them the other day, and I did. I heated up my oven. Silly me, I could have used my air fryer.
So the Asian meatballs in the air fryer is a really nice one because we're gonna do a bit of a cheat, and we're gonna use just frozen meatballs. We like the Costco brand because it is a large bag of meatballs, so we can make a lot of meals at one time with it. Get those in the freezer.
And they're pre-cooked.
Into your large freezer bag, you're going to put those pre-cooked meatballs, some minced garlic. We use our minced garlic from a jar. It's way easier that way. Then some lime juice, soy sauce, sesame oil, and ginger. We also use our ginger from the squeezy tube because, again, we are all about saving time and making things as easy as possible. Then you can throw in some sliced green onions, and that's it. You're gonna get the air out of your bag, seal it, throw it in your freezer. Now, this was so easy that you might as well make 2 of them while you're at it. Then on the day that you go to cook this, if you want to cook them from frozen because you forgot to take that bag out in the morning, then you're going to put them in your air fryer at 350 degrees for 15 minutes. You're going to shake them at about the 12-minute mark. And if you want to do it from thawed, then you're going to have your air fryer at 380 degrees for 10 to 12 minutes and give that basket a shake at around the 8-minute mark. You want to maybe rest these before serving because you want that meat to be 165 degrees in the center. Since the meatballs are pre-cooked, this is much less of a consideration. But if you're making your own meatballs, you want to just have that information. Now, you can serve this with some side vegetables and rice, and you have a great weeknight meal.
As Charlotte mentioned earlier, the breakfast burritos, they are nice and easy. They're an individual serving. They're in the freezer and they're individually wrapped so that we can, grab them 1 or 2 at a time, which is really, really convenient, especially when you have teenagers.
Definitely.
They can be cooked in the oven. You remove the foil, you can cook them in the microwave, but they end up being a little bit soggy. Like defrosted tortillas just really don't always grab everybody's attention in a good way. So the solution to this, in my opinion, is the air fryer. You want it to be oiled so that it's crispy. So you want to brush some oil on. So to make the breakfast burritos, there is a little bit of prep involved for these because you are going to pre-scramble your eggs. You are going to crisp up your bacon, brown some sausage. You want to dice some peppers, shred some cheese, maybe onion if that is your jam. They're pretty simple to assemble. You start out with your flour tortilla. We're going to add a spoonful of the scrambled eggs, little bit of bacon or the sausage, add in your peppers and your cheese or onion if that's what you have, and then you wrap it in a burrito style. These ones are important to put onto a parchment paper lined baking sheet. You're going to flash freeze them in your freezer. Once they are nice and frozen, you can put those right into your freezer bag and seal it up and they won't stick together. Alternatively, you are absolutely welcome to wrap these in wax paper or some foil, and that gives them a little bit more portability. Then they could go to school, they can go to work because they have a wrapping on them. When we go to cook these, like I said, they can go in the oven, they can go in the microwave. You could even brown them in a skillet, and I have done that before. It's hard to get it cooked hot all the way through if you do it on a skillet, but the air fryer. Again, these can go in frozen. We're going to brush that oil on it, put it into the air fryer, 15 minutes at 350, flipping once, and it will be cooked all the way through. If it is thawed, hold on to your horses because you will be done in less than 5 minutes. It really is like 2 to 3 minutes depending on your air fryer. A question about air fryers is people say, how important is it really to preheat your air fryer? Depends on the air fryer. Again, you know your air fryer best. Some preheat within 3 minutes. Mine takes like a good 10 minutes to preheat. I don't know why. It's just a slow one. So I usually give it a few minutes and then I get impatient and I stick it in there. And if that means I have to cook it a few minutes longer at the end, that is a-okay as well.
I love having the breakfast burritos or any breakfasty kinds of things, because then if the kids are in a rush and on their way to work or to school, they can just grab it and go, and I know they've had something healthy. They're also great for things like ski trips or camping trips. So yeah, awesome to have. Although you probably wouldn't have your air fryer with you when you're camping.
At the ski hill or camping, I take my slow cooker.
Okay, so at the ski hill you might, and that gets into why I might consider getting an air fryer. So this past weekend, we were up in the mountains for my birthday, and we have friends who have a place there, and funny enough, she keeps her air fryer there. She has one at home, and she keeps one at their place in the mountains, which I thought, okay, like
that is some dedication.
That means she really loves her air fryer. And she was telling me about how she makes bacon in it and all the different things that she uses it for, and how they just love that they can make things and not have to heat their oven. We had a birthday like appetizer games night. They came and brought 3 kinds of chicken wings, and she had made all 3 kinds in her air fryer. They were so good. They were crispy, and I'm not a chicken wings person, but they looked so good and they smelled so good that I actually ate one, which doesn't sound that impressive, but I don't know that I've had a chicken wing in like 25 years. So this was progress for me.
This was progress. Look at you slumming it with the chicken wings, fancy girl.
We also took, a while back, we did like a foodie food video. I'll pop the link for that video right there.
That's worth a look.
And in that, I had made a minted pea puree. And so for that night, we did some crostinis. We did all appetizers. So did some crostinis, and on some of them, I smeared this thawed minted pea puree from the freezer, and then topped it with some baby tomatoes that were sliced and some pepper, and oh, it was really, really good. My husband thought they were a little bland, but I thought they were just right. So her chicken wings were delicious and amazing, and the way she talked about her air fryer kind of had me sold. But then the next day she was telling me that they had taken the leftover chicken wings and had them that day and just reheated them in the air fryer, and she said from now on I'm gonna cook them twice. Like, I'm going to cook them the one day, and then the next day when we actually want to eat them, I'm gonna cook them again
to crisp them right up.
That much better the second day. And so it got me thinking that maybe, since I love appetizers so much,
that is a way that you could do some chicken wings. Charlotte gets an air fryer so she can eat a chicken wing. I love you. This is so funny. You're so funny. I love that.
So these chicken wings are make ahead, and they are going to be perfect for your air fryer. So in your large freezer bag, you're going to put your chicken wings, some lemon juice, minced garlic, again, just from the jar, some lemon pepper seasoning, Italian seasoning, and a bit of cayenne. Now with these, if you like things spicy, go ahead and add more cayenne. If you know that your kids are not gonna like any spice at all, you can omit that. These are our lemon pepper chicken wings, by the way. Then you're gonna get the air out of your bag, smush these around in your bag to mix them, and get that in your freezer. On the day you go to make these, you are gonna wanna thaw them, and then you're gonna preheat your air fryer to 400 and cook them for 18 minutes, flipping them at around the 10-minute mark. One tip that we have heard is that to more evenly cook your chicken wings, you can separate the drumsticks from the flat wings and cook them in separate trays or separate batches, because that way everything is going to be ready at exactly the same time. You're going to completely get your desired crispiness.
That is a great tip. I will say that you have to mix them back together again to serve, because there are people that will take all the drumsticks. You know who you are. And so I have to mix it together to kind of make them feel guilty.
And then one last chicken wing tip, of course, is we're gonna take my friend Carola's tip. And if you wanna make these extra crispy, you cook them again in your air fryer just to reheat them, but also to crisp them back up.
That sounds
and
great.
all the flavors are, more melded and just crispy goodness.
Carola also sent along some cinnamon buns to Charlotte's house that she brought home, and I got to have breakfast this morning when I got here, thanks to Carola, and they were delicious.
Carola makes the best cinnamon buns in the whole world, and she actually has a company.
My grandma might have a word to say about that, but easy. She has a company?
She actually has a company, and she makes the best cinnamon buns. And Carola's company is All Things Cinnamon YYC. So you should look her up. We'll put a link in the description below. She doesn't ship them yet, but I'm working on her to try to get her to start shipping, because you can buy them if you live in Calgary, Alberta, Canada at this point.
That's what YYC is, by the way. That's the airport code for Calgary.
But I don't live in Calgary, and so I have to wait until I see her in the mountains, and then I buy a whole bunch from her. I bring them home in a cooler, put them in my freezer, and then I can eat them for breakfast.
That's so funny. Well, I had one for breakfast, and you bought them, so thank you. And thank you, Carola, for making them.
For my birthday, she actually gave me a Christmas wreath made with cinnamon, but it's all spread out into a wreath, and it has like a sprig of rosemary. It's beautiful. And so that's in my freezer for Christmas time.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yes.
I wonder if she shares her recipes.
I don't think she shares her recipe, but maybe we can get her to come on a video sometime. Come visit us and do a video.
Oh, yeah.
She'd have to keep some of her things a secret, like her icing is, and she makes icing balls instead of spreading the icing on top. So then if you're like me and you don't eat the icing, you can just pop the ball off, and then my husband eats it.
See, it's a win-win. This recipe is another sheet pan convert. It is sheet pan chicken fajitas, and I decided a long time ago that I wanted to start making this in the air fryer, because while it does cook up nicely in the stove, sometimes I feel like you're not getting quite the same crisp that you should get for a fajita. You know, when you're at a restaurant, you order the fajita, and that's the most selfish thing you could order at a restaurant, because it takes up half your table, like 3/4 of your table, because you have your tortillas and you have the sizzling thing, and nobody can touch it because it's like going to burn you. And then you have your guacamole and your sour cream and your salsa and your, I don't know what,
cheese.
The sprinkles and whatever. It's the most selfish thing that you could order at a restaurant. But it is really simple on a sheet pan. But I always felt like it wasn't getting crispy for me. So I'm like, I'm doing this one in the air fryer.
Yeah, you've been doing it for a while.
I have been doing it for a while in the air fryer. Super simple. Again, you're gonna wanna spread it out a little bit so it's all laid out evenly. You're not stacking things up. It is a simple one to put together too. So we're gonna start out in your bag. You're gonna have your chicken breasts cut into nice thin strips. We're going to add in some sliced peppers, green peppers, red peppers, some yellow peppers. We're going to add in some purple onion, some garlic. Again, we're using it from the jar. Some fajita seasoning, which you can get just separate fajita seasoning. If you don't have that, taco seasoning will do the job. We're going to add in some salt and pepper and some olive oil. You want to mix it around so all those spices get over all of your chicken and all your vegetables inside the bag. It saves you a bowl. It is so nice to not have to have a bowl to wash when you're making freezer meals. And then we're going to seal all that up, get the air out, and freeze it. So for the day of cooking, you could do this in a skillet. We obviously have done it in the oven, but the air fryer, it really shines here. So you're just gonna put it in at 380 for about 18 minutes, depending on your air fryer. You're gonna wanna give it a shake or give it a flip around at about the 10-minute mark. And bam, straight into your tortillas with all of your wonderful things that you have laid out selfishly.
At least if you're having it as a family, you're all
doing it.
I remember you guys were on a trip over spring break last year, and your daughter ordered fajitas in the restaurant because she hadn't done that before.
Yes, it was okay, we stopped at a gas station. We were in the lower mainland of Vancouver area, and I forget even which part. I think it was like Burnaby. And my husband had to like Kijiji something. We drove all the way from Edmonton to Vancouver, and he's like, oh, I found a quad seat, like for my ATV that I would like to buy from a guy in Burnaby. Okay, so we're taking the truck then, right? Because I can't fit all that in the car. And so we drove the truck all the way to Vancouver, and it was fine. And so we're in Burnaby, and we stopped at a gas station and literally went in and said, what's good to eat? And the lady at the till was so helpful, and she gave us a few places. And this one restaurant, this Mexican restaurant, sounded really good. And it was family owned. We have one in our town that is like that. It had that same feel. It was very authentic, and we enjoyed it a lot. They had barely just opened, and we walked in, right? And so we were their first customers, so they gave us a lot of attention. Plus, yes, my daughter ordered the chicken fajitas, and it took up the entire table.
So in my quest towards getting an air fryer, because as Christy has said, I don't tend to make rash decisions. It takes me a little bit before I decide I'm going to do
Change
something.
is a big thing for Charla. It took
17 years to fix this kitchen.
You were still not used to this kitchen. She was like, I feel like I'm at a fancy hotel.
I do. I feel like I'm staying in an Airbnb. Anyway, so Change and I are not the best of friends, but as I make my way towards eventually getting an air fryer, which I know I will end up with at some point, I'm sharing things with you to make it more appealing for myself. And hopefully I'm helping you along the way.
Well, as you can see, there are a lot of recipes that are actually pretty easy to, it's just a little bit of adjustment and imagination to get it into the air fryer and make it work. People across North America are obviously doing it because it's such a hot thing.
And if you can make these ahead, like we did today,
twice as easy, 3 times as easy.
It's ready to go. And for those nights when you've got a Christmas recital, soccer, piano lessons, book club, whatever you've got going on, in 10 to 20 minutes, you can have dinner done because you already did the work. And we always say that tomorrow you will thank today you, or 3 weeks from now you will thank today you for getting these meals done and in your freezer, because then you don't have to think about it again.
And that is probably the single best part of freezer meals.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope that you are enjoying your air fryer, or if you're like me and you're just considering it, that this moved you a little more towards that decision.
And we're not being paid by air fryer people.
We are not.
Thanks so much for joining us today.
Happy cooking.